Very dear students, today we are going to discuss research in sociolinguistics. In fact, all researches are researches. We cannot say that one research in one discipline will go 100% different from the other. It's not the case. Almost research remains the same. The paradigms are same. The principles may vary from one to the other. It depends all on the research topic, the research question, theoretical framework, and then ultimately it depends on the research design formulated. Let us see what we can do in case of this topic which is being discussed here, research in sociolinguistics. Let's talk about the definition first of all. The definition says that this type of research, which we call sociolinguistic research, that basically involves the relationship between two things. One is the language and other one is the society. When we discuss language in terms of society, or we discuss society in terms of language, how these two are interacting with each other, and as a result, what is the kind of relationship which they have with each other, then this research can be called sociolinguistic research. This because of this factor of relationship, it becomes multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary research because then it involves linguistics, anthropology, sociology, and other disciplines as well. Because language and society go to deal with all these kind of things. If we see that what happens when this is the study of language or that of literature, at that time we can see that this type of research would undergo broader areas of discussion and of research. For example, when reading or interpreting language, we will enter into the language variations, for example, multilingualism, and then we shall also see language and identity, how the people take help from identity in order to determine their language, or how does language determine their identity. Then we should also see the language attitudes of the people. I mean, how much code switching and what type of code switching is going on, and the government above all, what type of language policy has established. So in this way, it becomes a broader area. And so when it is very broader area, we need to narrow down this area into certain specific question, population specific or linguistic feature. For example, we can ask how does age affect the use of regional dialects in a specific community? What attitude do speakers of minority, for example, languages have towards their language in urban settings? So this type of narrow down can be possible. And this narrow down then further leads us to the next point. That will help us to proceed towards our research question. This research question is a very important tool of conducting research because it becomes a type of guide or a type of steering wheel with which we can proceed our research. For this purpose, it has to be very clear and very specific. For example, our question should be focused and researchable. This is very important that the question should be researchable and focused as well. So that is why we have to be very much careful in designing our question so that later on we may not be facing all such issues. In order to make this question clear and specific, there are 2 and 3 ways to do so. For example, first of all, our research question should align with some kind of theory of sociolinguistics. It can be according to the researchers, the sociolinguistics researchers or theorists, it should be in accordance with that. And then it should also discuss sociolinguistics or critical discourse analysis. So some type of theory should be involved with research question, and then the topic, and then the area, then the population. All these things should be combined together. And then of course the objectives of research as well in order to formulate a good and clear research question. Once the research question has been adopted or clarified, one needs to proceed towards literature review or review of literature, which means that first of all, we may be able to identify key studies or familiarize ourselves with the foundational and recent research in your interest. It means that one needs to look at one's area and then see what researches already have been done and what are the theoretical foundations already established. If we can have that, then we can proceed further in order to find out the gaps in the same research. When we look at different researches, we are able to identify the gaps, and we can also see some of the unanswered questions or unresolved context also to justify your research. So, through the previously done researches, we enter into the gaps or unanswered questions in order to find out where we can very befittingly make our research. The third step would be to build a theoretical foundation. For example, what we need to do, we need to incorporate theories in order to guide our study. For example, one of the theory can be Lebow's sociolinguistic patterns or Gumper's interactional analysis. So any of other these theories can also be taken for this purpose. Once the review is done, we need to proceed to choose a methodology, research methodology. We have different research methodologies, but ordinarily or usually we use three, that is quantitative method, qualitative method, or then it can be mixed method. The quantitative method is very suitable for the patterns of language used across large populations. The data can be collected through surveys and the corpus analysis as well. The qualitative is in-depth understanding of language in a social context. For example, we can use interviews, ethnography, and participant observation in this regard. Mixed method would demand both qualitative and quantitative researches in order to conduct a comprehensive analysis. If we have done so, we have decided so, we are then going on the right direction to continue with our research. Once the methodology has been chosen, we can then go ahead to find out the context for our research. For example, the community or setting we need to see where we are performing our research. What is the specific group or the region where the research study is to go on? And similarly, we can then proceed towards the variables. We would like to identify relevant social factors. For example, are we working on the age? Are we working on the gender, ethnicity, class, or education? All these things should be seen with respect to the variables. And once the variables are decided, we shall go to find out what language features we are going to discover. For example, are we talking about the phonetics or syntax or discourse, or all these three things can be combined into one in order to analyze all that. So that would be the way to establish research context. Well, here is the data collection methods section, which is really very significant and very important. All these methods cannot be brought here. However, some of the important ones are interviews, and then comes the observation, and after that is the survey and questionnaire, and then is the corpora. In case of interviews, interviews can be semi-structured or structured, I mean well-designed questions or semi-designed questions, and then it can be used in order to conduct socio-cultural information and linguistic research. Observation definitely is the record of natural speech in the real life settings. If we are doing so in the real life setting, that would become observation. Same is the case with surveys and questionnaires. They are also used in order to collect the language patterns or the attitudes of language. There are certain pre-existing text or speech corpora for analysis also available. In that way, data is collected from different sources and then is incorporated in order to conduct the analysis of data. We shall be proceeding towards analysis of the same data. Then the analysis can be of two types. One is the quantitative analysis, other is the qualitative analysis, and then we can also use some of the softwares like SPSS, Innova, NVivo rather, or ELAND for data analysis. When it's a quantitative analysis, we shall be using statistical tools in order to identify the patterns and the correlations of different variables. For example, analyze the frequency of linguistic variables. That means the use of a specific vowel sound across different social groups. If we are doing so, we can find out some of the quantitative analysis. Same would be the case with the qualitative analysis, that in qualitative analysis we would analyze the discourse or the conversational strategies or the language ideologies. That means we are looking for recurring themes or socio-cultural meanings in our data. And thirdly, when we enter into the softwares, it is quite rather easier. The difficult thing is to enter data into the software. Once we have done so successfully, the software will perform the same function as the quantitative or qualitative analysis can perform. So it is also better to save time and energy to use a software for analysis. Once the analysis has been done, we can enter into interpretation of our findings. Like we shall be trying to relate our finding to our theories which we are using or the framework which we are using. We would like to contextualize our findings also by considering how social, historical, or cultural factors influence our results. Then we shall also go for the significance that would like to see or highlight the implications of the research findings of the community studied or the broader fields. These things we shall also be mentioning as a part of our research. When all is done, we shall be ready to write and present our research. This step, for example, can include, first of all, introduction, the background, and the research question. Secondly, as we have said so, literature review would come forward. Methodology would be decided, result data would be collected and analyzed, results of the findings should be given, a discussion may also take place, and ultimately the conclusion. This is all the structure of the research presentation. Once we have done so, we should also reflect and revise our research. For example, first of all, we should critique our own research in order to see are there certain limitations which were possibly present in the methodology or data or analysis. We will be looking into that. And then we can show our research to someone, the peers or the supervisor or the external in order to seek his feedback in order to improve further. Same would be the case that if we have found out some of the drawbacks in that, some of the limitation in that, we may once again visit to see whether everything has been done rightly. That would be beneficial for the research, for the researcher, and for overall benefit of the field. Some of the tips, however, if one is doing sociolinguistic research, can be we may be engaging ourselves with the communities. That means building trust with the communities when we are trying to go and get information from them. We may also acknowledge that some kind of bias may also enter while we are conducting research. But when these things are there, we have to be very open and accept the things as they are. And then, about any field, about any community, we need to be updated in order to get all that information. If we take all this care, our research would be quite good. So, thank you very much for watching. It has been a good session with you. And if you like it, do not fail to hit the subscribe button and the like button and comment if you like to. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you in some next video.